Back to Mr. Orr's flip class for grammar, looking at participles and participial phrases. First, a verbal is a verb that it's not a verb. That in itself can be a confusing thought. Keep in mind, a verb is a verb not just because of what it is or how it's spelled, but because of what it's doing in the sentence, because it's either action or linking or auxiliary. But there are times we'll take a verb, a word that ends in ed or ing, for example, and we'll use it as something else, such as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. There are three types of verbals: participles, gerunds, and infinitives. We'll start with participles and participial phrases. A participle is a form of a verb. That's just what it is. It's a form of a verb in itself. But in this lesson, we're talking about it being specifically used as an adjective. It becomes a describing word. Now, participles come in two forms. There's the ing form, which is called the present participle. That's always the participle. The question is it being used as a verb or as an adjective? The past participle can actually be more than that, but we'll start with just being ed or en. Those forms, whichever come after the auxiliary verb, have. That form is called the past participle, even if it doesn't have the helping verb in front of it. It's still going to be, in this case, a verbal without the helping verb and an adjective. And just for definition purposes, a participial phrase is simply the participle in any additional words used as an adjective, or any words that describe or explain that ing, ed, or en word. Alright, how do you find these? First, you want to find all verbs. Remember that verbs must have subjects in order to be verbs. In some cases, they also have to have helping verbs, like ing words. So if you don't find a subject for that verb, or a unique subject for that verb, you might be looking at a verbal. So whatever's left, once they haven't found a direct subject, those verbs are going to be verbals in the sentence. In order for the verbals to be participles, they have to modify nouns or pronouns. Okay, again, we're looking at ing words without a helping verb or auxiliary verb, and the ed, en forms, oftentimes without helping verbs, but they're used to describe something. So it's always a good idea, again, with adjectives, to draw an arrow to the noun or pronoun each participle describes. An example: wandering through the halls, Lissa finally arrived in class. Look at the sentence, we're going to find our verbs. We have arrived, and it looks like wandering is a verb, but it's an ing. Is there a helping verb in front of it? Well, no, because it's actually this first word in the sentence. So in that case, wandering is not going to actually be a verb. So arrived is the verb. With the simple subject, who arrived, is Lissa. And the ing word that's not a verb, because there's no helping verb, so it's wandering. Is there anything that's explaining or adding detail to wandering? Well, yeah, wandering through the halls. So that whole phrase has to be describing something. So the question is, what or who is it describing? You're looking for a noun or pronoun. Well, as we talked about before, it's most logical that you actually place the version of the word or that descriptive phrase right in front of the word it's describing. In this case, Lissa. So who's wandering through the halls? Lissa is, and therefore that's a participial phrase. Go through the exercises, take your time, ask many questions if you have them, but you'd be surprised if you follow the steps, you can do this better than you think. Especially to start with on the chapter test, because it's going to focus on just participles first, and then infinitives separate, and gerunds separate from that too. But you are going to need to take time and do your steps. If it asks for, what version it is, remember that participial phrases are only adjectives. They're not going to be adverbs, they're not going to be nouns, only adjectives. Good hunting.